Welcome back to another epic week of nuclear news. Let's dive right in. First up, price action. Sprott Uranium Junior Miners ETF year to date up 10%, keeping pace with the S&P 500, which is up 10%, outperforming the Sprott Uranium Miners ETF, which is up 3%. So last year, the Sprott Uranium Miners ETF massively outperformed the juniors. This year, the juniors are outperforming as the whole space takes a nice, healthy correction overall. So let's dive through the fundamentals. That's really what matters in this space. So we have this great chart, which shows utility term contracting activity in dark blue. So as utilities start to demand more and more uranium, the price in yellow pumps or stays elevated. And so we're just emerging from a decade of very low contracting activity, contracting starting to pick up. And so the price of uranium is starting to spike. Will it continue spiking in the long term? Well, that's the most important question. That's what we're going to try to answer. Let's start with the supply fundamental first. Global uranium supply in jeopardy as Kazatomprom lowers production forecasts. We talked about this last week, but this summarizes it. Optimistic investors are focusing on uranium's future, driven by an increasing supply shortage and higher demand as nations seek nuclear energy solutions for climate change. This interest is highlighted amid supply warnings from Canada's Cameco and Kazakhstan's Kazatomprom, the leading producers responsible for half the world uranium supply. Kazatomprom forecasts a significant supply deficit, escalating from 21 million pounds in 2030 to 147 million pounds by 2040. Nuclear energy is the future. And if uranium is about to be in a multi-decade supply crunch, that answers the question. We are in a deep deficit, and in the short term, it's just accelerating. U.S. Energy Secretary encourages Congress to ban uranium supplies from Russia, so just tightening the already scarce supply in the West. And so that speaks to the scarce supply. Let's look at the demand fundamental, another crucial component of evaluating whether or not the price of uranium is going to go up in the future. Google, Microsoft, and Nucor announce a new initiative to aggregate demand to scale the adoption of advanced clean electricity technologies. And among those technologies are obviously nuclear power. And when you look at the chart showing the return on investment and comparing the different types of energy, uranium wins. So where are these really smart and wealthy companies and countries going to be investing? Well, if they're smart, they're going to be investing in nuclear power because it wins, right? So the wealthiest companies on the planet are investing heavily into nuclear. Bill Gates' Terra Power plans to build first U.S. next-generation nuclear power. They applied to start constructing the sodium-cooled reactor near their local plant in Wyoming. And then obviously, we have the biggest countries on the planet also buying in. There was a nuclear energy summit in Brussels. The U.S. is committed to tripling global nuclear capacity by 2050 and working with our allies to establish a global uranium supply market free of Russian interference. So leaders tout nuclear power as climate tool at Brussels Summit. This is incredibly important, right? This is the writing on the wall. What does the future look like? More than 30 countries, including European nations, the United States, Brazil, and China, okay? Broadly diverse geographic group of huge countries took part on Thursday in the first ever summit held by the United Nations Atomic Energy Agency to promote nuclear as a clean and reliable source of energy. It does not get bigger than this. Biggest countries on the planet, first time ever meeting. And what they want to do is obviously expand nuclear around the world. We commit to support all countries, especially emerging nuclear ones, in their capacities and efforts to add nuclear energy to their energy mixes. The wall of capital moving into this space. U.S. to provide $4 billion for your SMR plant build. I don't understand how that benefits U.S. taxpayers, but hey, U.S. taxpayers are giving Romania $4 billion to build an SMR nuclear plant. So this is the priority for the biggest players in the world, right? And then we have Wall Street throwing money at nuclear power as well. Constellation Energy issues green bond worth $900 million to fund nuclear energy projects, right? Just getting started with these green bonds. We have Fidelity buying 8% of Paladin, which is a uranium miner, plowing $300 million into the uranium market. In an interview, one of the leaders at Tribeca Asset Management gave that news out that Fidelity bought $300 million worth of a uranium mine, Paladin. El Salvador seeks IAEA approval for nuclear energy use. Just another example of a country diving in. NewScale CEO touts data center deal, heavy industry SMR interest amid 180 million loss for 2023. NewScale signed an agreement in October with data center provider Standard Power for 2 SMRs and has 8 funded projects with petrochemical industry partners. So NewScale still in its early stages, seeing big demand for data centers. Data computation are going to be some of the most valuable resources on the planet, powered by nuclear energy, still in the early stages. In Canada, a memorandum of understanding could lead to transportable microreactors for mines and remote communities. So mines and remote communities all around the world are going to be powered by these small SMRs. Project developer says first unit could be operating by 2030. So that is the future of this space. Demand accelerating every day. Google, Microsoft diving in. Supply getting scarcer and scarcer every week. And so not so worried about short-term price action. A lot of it is just manipulation, profit taking. The long-term fundamentals are not baked in to the short-term price action at all. So we just get to stay on top of the long-term fundamentals and understand what is next for this space.